And today we have with us candidate Brad Wimmer and Mayor Dennis Wallaker. And the format will be each candidate will get a 2-minute introduction. Then we have questions from the audience, and we will continue to take questions on the index cards. And each candidate will get 2 minutes to answer to the questions, and then we'll allow a kind of 1-minute final statement at the end. And if we could start with Brad Wimmer, if you want to start with your opening statement.
Very good. Well, again, thanks for having us. I'm glad it's always a good crowd, and we wish it would be bigger, but it is what it is, and thanks for the TV audience. I would just like to say again, I'm excited to throw my hat in the ring for mayor after a lot of discussion and talking and visiting and timing and all of the above. We've decided to do that. A couple of the reasons, again, as Dr. Mahoney and Mayor Wallaker and myself have moved forward 8 years ago with a whole different set of topics. I just thought it's time for a change. I just thought that it's time for moving ahead with different agendas other than flood control, that being one of our main topics still today. There's a lot of other things coming around in the not only the city of Fargo, but our region. And I just thought that we need a change of pace. And I like that, whether it's in your business, if you aren't making changes, if you aren't moving things around, if you aren't moving the faces up, mentoring your younger people, I don't think you're moving ahead. Status quo isn't what we want in the city of Fargo. So that's one of my impetuses. The League of Cities, just coming off as past president of that, 8 years on the City Commission, 8 years on the Fargo Park District. Those leadership roles, all the way back to slow pitch softball, Fargo Kiwanis, our Jewelry State Association, the Downtown Community Partnership roles, the Red River Basin Commission. A lot of these leadership roles over the last 2 to 10, 15, 20 years have led me to this decision. And again, having the experience and having the knowledge about the city. I'm a 60-year-old resident of the city of Fargo, have a 95-year-old business in the city of Fargo, and have grown up here. And that's why I'm running for the office of mayor.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wallaker.
Good morning. I'll just take a couple of points. As far as the status quo, we have 800 employees that work for the city of Fargo. Okay, and trying to keep those people in line, moving forward, and so forth is an extreme challenge. Everybody thinks that flood control is my priority. Well, I've been involved with more things, and I continue to be involved with more things on a continual basis. Look over some of the accomplishments of the last 8 years, and then I have known my opponent for a long time. In fact, I was in Lindenwood Park when he announced his candidacy for the commission, and I endorsed him at that time and so forth, and I said, we need somebody of Mr. Wimmer's integrity and so forth, and I still believe that. Things are good in our community today, and why are they good? Because of the accomplishments of a lot of people. And one of the things about hiring people, there was a significant amount of our staff in the leadership roles that were promoted for the wrong reasons because of longevity. And we have worked very hard over several years to try and hire the right people and promote them for the right reasons. And that's why our system in Fargo is as good as it is. And we still have some steps to take in the future, but I think that's extremely important, to hire the right people that are responsive to the public. When I get an email from somebody that's dissatisfied and so forth, I send it to the appropriate people, and I assume that I never hear it again. and that's extremely important. If I go through the issues from pavement rehabilitation, not all things can happen. How much time do I have left? None? Okay. We'll get into that later in my closing remarks. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So now we'll move on to taking the questions from the audience. And we will start off with one that was even probably similar to some of the city commission that some of those candidates answered. And that is, with Fargo's vast infrastructure needs, aside from flood control, what do you see as the next priority? And we'll start, Mr. Walker, with you.
Well, basically, that was part of the comments I was going to make. Not everything can be done at one time. We need to prioritize. One of the things that we worked with in our engineering department was on the street rehabilitation program. There was a period of time in my life where I could not drive from the south side to the north side, from the west side to the east side on a good road. That's not the case today. Improvements have been made, and we have a schedule right now for the next 10 years. We can basically tell you at any time when we're going to be in your neighborhood, and especially on the more traveled areas. As far as our sanitary sewer, I was a principal in, we reviewed 1 million feet of sewer, sanitary sewer in the rehabilitation program when I was in engineering. Our city engineer worked with the storm water retention program, and that's why you see all these holes around Fargo and so forth. And that gives everybody a chance to be successful. Probably one of the most important things that happened over the years was our water distribution. We have the best water in Fargo because we have a new water plant. But beyond that, our distribution system. In 1 year, we had 600 failures in 12 months. So we started a program of rehabilitation. We prioritized these replacements on 2 to 4 miles based on failures. We have reduced that number for the last 10 years to 25 to 60 failures a year, which is amazing, and so forth. So I will slow down then. Thank you.
Mr. Wimmer.
Well, I believe there's a lot of things that we need to move on to past flood control. Fargo right now is the talk of the region. I mean, and the talk of the nation. We're the envy of a lot of areas. The economic vibrancy is tremendous. We're doing very well. We want to do great. We just want to do great things, and I know some of the commissioners alluded to that. Just a couple of specific things. Workforce development. Unemployment is at one of the lowest rates it's ever been. We want to work on workforce development throughout the city. As people are talking about flood control and they're talking about the diversion, we need to work on bringing water to the valley. That's going to be a big, important issue to make sure that in drought years we have enough water supply and adequate drinking water and a water supply in the valley. As crucial as the diversion, and they seem like they fight each other, but we need both of those. We need to get our young people. I think I'm going to be a bit of a transition builder between what we've had in the city and what the future is going to bring. And I see myself as being a transition, being a mentor to young people, getting more young people involved, not only in city government, but in business. The Million Cups of Coffee with our young entrepreneurs, amazing, the energy that they're providing, and as they come into our city and they're just starting their careers, they're starting to find homes, they're starting to find places to live, crucial to what we're doing. Collaboration. We need better collaboration with the state legislature, with our federal partners, and with our neighboring communities. And then our inner city core rebuilding. So again, our city, 16 miles long, is only as good as the core, and we need to make sure that the vibrancy of our core is met and people can live, work, and play in the inner city and also develop throughout the city.
All right, thank you. So the next question is a combination of questions regarding the new city hall, or the proposed new city hall. And so the questions would be, asking your position on the proposed new city hall, but also addressing why we need a new city hall. Mr. Wimmer, we will start with you.
Probably not as evident in the room you're sitting in right here, but just move to the east as you walk out and walk down the halls. And as I've visited those departments, I've asked that very question. Do we need a new city hall? And the unanimous answer is yes. Yes, we want to make sure that we can get the heat to 72 in the winter. We want to make sure that we can get the heat to 72 in the summer. We want to make sure that we don't have to bring heaters, blankets, coats to work. The old city hall, unfortunately, the boiler system and all of the above is breaking down. So yes, we need a new city hall. We need to move many of our departments, which are dispersed all over the city, together. Those that can work effectively outside of the city hall environment will continue in their environment and work together. But we do need a new city hall. And I'm not on that building committee, but I've sat in on virtually every one of their meetings, so have been directly involved, and our commission ultimately will have some of the decisions as we go forward on the city hall. So yes, we do need it. We need a way to make sure that it's funded and funded properly, and again, I think it'll be a major cog as we move forward with the revitalization of downtown Fargo and of the city.
And thank you, Mr. Wallaker.
Excuse me. When we talk about City Hall, this has been an ongoing topic in my office for an awful long time. And they've showed me the pictures in the wintertime and so forth, and I agree that the building is 50, 60 years old and needs to be replaced. So we set up a committee to find the location. Everybody agreed on that committee that it continue to be downtown. Then we set up a committee to move forward with selection of an architect, and we did that. And now the architect has met with every department in the entire city, looking at their needs for the future. I estimated somewhere between $15 and $20 million shortly, and sometime in the middle of June, we're going to have a cost estimate and so forth, and then we have to figure out a way to finance that. And this is the beginning. What I told our staff was a very simple process. I said, this is going to be downtown. This is the beginning of the building blocks that are going to improve along with the flood protection and so forth. I mean, we built a new library here, and it's magnificent once you get in the doors. And we want to make this a place where people can come and so forth. And that's what it's all about. So I think the issue has been straightforward as we possibly can be. And I think we approved to the public what the needs are. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next question has to do with rail safety and asking, what can be done to improve the safety of, oil being transported through Fargo, and if there was to be some kind of disaster or explosion, is Fargo prepared?
Well, basically, what do you do with an oil fire? You let it burn and try and contain the area and remove the people from the immediate area and so forth. That's why I voted against the revitalization and the reconstruction of the Union Storage Building, because it's adjacent to the tracks and so forth. People don't understand. I had a personal issue with what happened in Castleton. My son-in-law was out there and sent me a copy of the explosion on his cell phone. And if that would have happened here, we do not need residential property along the tracks until improvements are made to the carrying of crude oil. They can put all the placards they want on the cars. They can do all of that. I am extremely well versed in what the status of our tracks are in the city of Fargo. We worked with them on the crossings, and so forth. And Burlington Northern has been a big player in this. They have a great safety record. That's not a problem. We can't afford to happen to us what happened in Quebec, where the 47 people in 3 blocks of the area were taken down. So we had a meeting in Castleton this week talking about rail safety. Our congressional people are totally involved, and they're working with the Secretary of Transportation to resolve the issue. So is everything being done? You got to keep everybody's feet to the fire till we get a solution to the problem.
And I'd take a little bit different approach. I think the preparedness is what we need to work on, and I think with our fire department and our emergency services being the lead, and they're learning what's being transported via rail, and they're learning how to react to it. I applaud Burlington Northern and their track record. Again, the Union Storage Building, I think, is a great project. It's next to the railroad. I live right next door to the railroad. So again, to have a personal interest in this, it couldn't be more vivid for me. Our business has been located on the railroad for 96 years. And we have moved to 3 locations, all of which are adjacent to the railroad track. There has not been, in my knowledge, 1 accident on that track in those 96 years. So Burlington Northern, again, is the first to admit these are accidents. And in their worst nightmare, these accidents would not happen. And they are working on slowing down trains throughout our city. They are working on the containers and how the different materials that can be catastrophic to the city, how they're packaged, how they're contained. And they are going to work with our state partners, and it's going to be more with our state and our federal partners, especially the federal partners that we work with and have their ear. We've never had Burlington Northern at the table in this room and in Castleton like we have in the last several months. So they have our ear, and the federal partners, we have their ear, and they're working very quickly. They're working judiciously on this issue to make sure that we don't have accidents happening. But again, the train record has been impeccable. And again, there's many of us that live and obviously work right on the railroad. And we aren't going to move all those people. We're just going to make sure that the city is absolutely prepared if something happens.
Thank you. So for the next question, we'll be combining quite a few different ones, but both, in the city commission form and in the questions that we've gotten from the audience, there have been many questions about kind of challenges related to growth in the Fargo area. Some things specifically that people were asking about was, making sure that we have safety and security, an increase in transient populations, and then also, how to maintain kind of the older part of the city as we are expanding to the south. So, Mr. Rimmer, we will start with you.
I'm a little confused. Now, which question do you want answered?
Well, I'm just going to say it as, what do you think would be the greatest challenge in the growth of Fargo? And those were some of the things that some of the audience members thought were concerns. But to hear from you, what do you think is the greatest challenge?
Well, obviously, we met yesterday with 50 of us, 50 of us, talking about that very issue. And as Fargo is growing, and if you add West Fargo into that growth factor, the 2 of us together are growing virtually unlike anybody in the state. And you would have to include Williams and the Williston area. We are growing at that pace. And those things are with our ag base and with our business growth, and a lot of it is growth because of what's happening out west. So we're going to grow that fiscally responsible. We are going to look at ways that we have infrastructure in place. We all the while want to develop our inner core and keep that workable and keep people living and working and recreating in the downtown area. So do we want to, the questions that are being asked are, how much further do we want to grow past 57th, 2nd, and 76th Avenue South? Do we want to let developers come in and start projects out where we don't have infrastructure? And that's a question that the planning department, the engineering department, the city commission, is going to be talking about at great length in the next year. How far do we want to grow? And do we want to send those people into Minnesota, into Cass County, further out towards Castleton, in those areas, and not grow any further? The people that are against our diversion project think it's all because of development. And every time we add something past 72nd, 76th, out to 100th, we've got some developments looking out at 100th Avenue South. They're chastising us because we're only wanting the diversion and flood protection so we can grow further. But we have developers knocking on the door daily trying to put projects in. We've never had more growth starts than we've had right now in the history of Fargo. So it's an issue, we're talking about it, and we want to develop in a very strategic manner as we move forward.
Thank you. Mr. Walker.
That's an interesting question. What kind of relationship do we have with development as far as a government body? I mean, normally in the past, the developer would come in, we would approve the plat, and would go forward. I go back to a period of time when they put in a sewer that would cover the development. And then you had to come back when the another development was added on to that. So we had two sewers, so forth. And that's poor planning. The same way with roadways. When you drive down south on 52nd Avenue and you have your access to the interstate and so forth, it's marvelous, absolutely marvelous. Infill has always been a concern. Border States Electric now is going to take care of a big problem for our area shortly. They're going to build both a commercial area for their equipment. They're going to also rehab their building where they have this commercial entity now and so forth. And that's going to be a big infill into what was basically a blighted area and so forth. So our concerns is what level do we control, okay? I mean, the areas across from Shields Arena, or Shields Sports, sat there empty for years and years and years, okay? And now it's being developed. So infill is happening. The question is, how far do we go? I think basically the area south of 52nd to 64th, no problem. Even to 76th. We have to provide housing, and we do provide housing and so forth. The biggest problem is the housing rehab program is so important to keep people in their homes and providing some incentives to make improvements to those facilities so they can stay in their homes. She said, stop.
All right, so the next question is, how welcoming and accepting of a community should Fargo be with respect to the diversity of our people? Ms.
Well,
Walker,
the
we'll start with
diversity
you.
is very simple. My father came from Norway. He is a North European, is that diversity? Lutheran Social Services have brought in a lot of people from Ghana and so forth. I think we're as diverse as we have ever been in the history of our community. We used to be North European origin and so forth, and we're all immigrants. Every one of us came from someplace else. You know, I was born in the city of Fargo. As far as the diversity is concerned, I think our police department is a perfect example of diversity, trying to find people that can understand some of the people that are here. When a guy on the north side took and emptied his fuel barrel into the storm sewer because he didn't know any better, and he was a person that was an immigrant and so forth, and we traced it to the river, traced it back, and so forth. You know, we need education. We need diversity. Diversity is, when I was in Colorado Springs, speaking at a convention out there, I was told that I am in the minority in the United States. Okay? I mean, and that was difficult for me to completely understand and so forth. So as far as the diversity in our community, absolutely. We are moving forward at a great speed. In the same, we have great relationships with the people from India. They take care of their own problems and so forth. And one of the things I do say on the national television is that people that come to this community should come with some skill sets. There's lots of opportunities here, but they need skill sets. We can't just put them on our social welfare rolls. And there is 38 solutions or departments in the community that handle many of these issues and so forth. And our planning department begins to handle many of these programs. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wimmer.
And I'd agree a lot with what Dennis has said. Fargo it changes. Roughly 15% of the population kind of recycles every year. So, you know, there's not as many of us that have spent our whole life here anymore. And I think those of us that are still here will tell you that when we grew up at Jefferson Grade School or Agassiz Junior High, at South High, we were not as diverse a community in those days. And I would tell you that, yeah, we're much better off today, and the diversity as young people move into our community, that's what they move here for. They like to see that. I challenge you to go to Theater B and see Clybourne Park. Deb and I went last week, and it talks about diversity or lack of diversity coming into a community back in 1959. And then it changes roles a bit, and it moves to 2009. And neighborhood issues, and people were talking about diversity obviously back in the 60s with a lot of items, but we still talk about neighborhood issues and diversity, and I think the community needs to embrace that. And I think our city commission, one of the reasons that I gave up my city commission seat was to try to have our city commission be more diverse. You know, for a while, and I think Dennis would agree, we had 5 gentlemen, I think between 48 and 64 years old, all with similar viewpoints, all lived in similar neighborhoods. And our commission was not diverse at all. And our community is very diverse, and we don't really have all that representation. So I think it's good to have that diversity in the mix on our committees, on our boards, all of those things. I think it's good on our city commission. When I gave up that commission seat, 6 people stepped up to run for that seat. And I think that's good. I think that activity is good, and it shows that people are interested in those things.
All right, thank you. So the next question will start with Mr. Wimmer. How do we continue to improve the business opportunities and business climate in Fargo?
Boy, well, that's a great question. We're going to work with workforce development. That's going to be a big one. We're going to try to make sure that we have adequate workforce, and that all goes to make sure that we have different levels of housing so people can come in not only in apartments, of which about 50% of our living quarters are apartment buildings. So we have apartments, we have single-family homes, we have all kinds of demographics for people to live. We need the workforce development to work with the state, to work with the city on making sure we have adequate workforce for all of our different areas out in the industrial park and all of our employers that are wanting to come to town. Hard to come to town with a business needing 100, 150 employees if they're not there. So workforce development is going to be a good one. Entrepreneurship and helping train these young entrepreneurs and providing them a good, solid community, again, with the safety aspects, in a place that they can bring their family, and a place that they can develop a business. One of the questions was asked at the Million Cups of Coffee the other day, and again, that isn't just young people, but it's mostly young people. There's several entrepreneurs that are a little bit older and trying new products and new careers, but is it easy? Can we cut the red tape at the city level? Can we make it easier for people to come in with a business and help them through the process, through the city, through the state, through the county, that they can set up their business, get a workforce, and go to work? So I think all the above is we can be more user-friendly throughout the city and make their customer service experience very good so they can operate their business.
Thank you, Mr. Walker.
Would you repeat the question?
Yes. How do we continue to improve the business opportunities and business climate in Fargo?
Improve it. Our Chamber of Commerce is doing, as far as I'm concerned, a marvelous job of providing access to the funds being provided by both the city of Fargo and the county and so forth. They're doing what they can. There are a lot of communities in the United States that are offering no taxes for 20 years and just to get development and so forth. We just dedicated or broke ground for a place called Integron. I don't think anybody fully understands what Integron is. They started with 2 women and an attorney from Grand Forks. And right now, they're at 300 employees, building a new office building on the south side because of this whole process of expanding a great idea, and they're doing services between Asia and Europe and so forth. And they're talking about significant expansion and so forth. That's what it's all about. I will make one statement about my family. 15, 20 years ago, there was no opportunities in this community for somebody like my daughters. One graduated from NDSU and one graduated from Concordia and pre-med. But today, 5, 6 years ago, they were given an opportunity to stay in this community. And we have a lot of people that want to come back to this community. And why? Because it's a great place to live and raise your children. Thank you.
Thank you. So for the next question, we heard from the commission candidates on, working with the state government or federal government, but we'd like to know how the mayoral candidates envision improving our city's relationship with the state and federal governments.
Well, I belong to the U.S. Conference of Mayors for 8 years. And I didn't go to the meetings the last 2 years. And why is that? Because of the Congress is basically being dysfunctional. We can't seem to get anything done. Our legislative, our congressional people are extremely good. John Hoeven and Heidi Heitkamp are, I consider, both friends, along with our governor and the lieutenant governor of North Dakota. I think we have great relationships. We have gone to D.C. numerous times over a lot of issues and so forth. In fact, one period of time I had 17 meetings with all over the Hill in Washington, D.C. in 2 days. The Pentagon, to all the office buildings and so forth, trying to convince with the budget group, the same difference, trying to explain our situation. So that's what it was all about. We do what we can, because if we fail, we have to understand that we did everything we could to accomplish our goals of our community. And as far as the Chamber of Commerce, I think they should be complimented, in the same way with the county and the city of Fargo, about the process of providing incentives and so forth. And both of us sit on a committee that deals with tax exemptions for new business and expanding a business and so forth. I think we're doing as good a job as we possibly can as far as enhancing that. They're always looking for methods to do that, to enhance their position and so forth.
Thank you, Mr. Wimmer.
This is one of my, probably one of the main points that I'm running on. It's certainly one of my bullet points, the collaboration with primarily the state legislature. The federal government would come next. We tie in with our state legislature, and it's so very important. I wish I had more legislators here this morning, but I know they're listening. That COG, and I will be present, have been from our commission point of view. So I think that's one of the areas of expertise that I'll bring to this, that we will be in Bismarck in 2015. We'll be in Bismarck for the legislative session in 2017. And that tie between Fargo and the legislature is critical. It's absolutely critical for funding on all avenues, whether it's transportation, whether it's flood control, whether it's our buses, our bus system, whether it's helping the chamber or whether it's helping NDSU. All of the above are critical. And again, I would hope to be that face from the city of Fargo at the state legislature, along with a team of department heads and a team from the county, a team from the school district, from the park district, that's talking about Fargo and Cass County and our region. So I think that collaboration has to improve, and that relationship is absolutely critical, especially with the state legislature. The federal government, again, the city would move to the state first because we're tied together so strongly. My leadership roles with the State League of Cities, the North Dakota League of Cities, and having been on that board and having been its past president, I think will help ensure that we know the players, whether it's for the mayor of Williston, the commission from Williston, the commission from Williams County, the collaboration with those people to help their needs and our needs together and move forward as a team through the legislative process will be critical, and I hope to lead that team.
All right, thank you. So the next question is actually going to be looking at kind of partnerships and collaborations just within the Fargo-Moorhead area. What are the partnering relationships between programs, and how do the cities cooperate? And what benefits, or how does that benefit Fargo? And we'll start with Mr. Wimmer.
Collaboration, again, one of the buzzwords, and start with West Fargo and Moorhead. We start with those two entities, and anything that we can collaborate with and on helps the citizens through the tax dollars. So it's always beneficial to collaborate on projects, whether it's our water treatment plan, which we're trying to woo West Fargo into and sell them on the aspect that we probably don't need 2 treatment plants. Can they help out at the landfill? Can they help out in so many ways? West Fargo is a little easier to partner with because of their relationship being in the same state. Moorhead a little more difficult as we move into another state entity, and I think several of the commission candidates alluded to that Moorhead basically plays with a lot of different rules than we do, just because Minnesota and North Dakota don't agree on everything. But we do collaborate with Moorhead, and that's critical, whether it's in services of safety, police, fire, dispatch services. Those are critical that we work together as a region. And I think we will continue, I know we will continue to know those players. West Fargo, it's been fun to get to know their leaders. And really most people that come into our store or that come into any of the establishments throughout the city sometimes don't even know what city they're in. So we're getting to be one growth area. If they're in Menards in Moorhead, do they know they're in Menards over in another state, in another city? I'm not so sure the person that comes from out of town knows that. So we need to work together collectively as a group and further that along. And again, I think that's one of my skill sets, is to get to, one, know the players, know who we're working with, and then work with them really on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, collaborating on anything and everything we were able to.
Mr. Wallaker.
I don't know if anybody remembers 8 years ago when I became mayor, the dysfunction that we had and the concerns we had with the other communities. Both West Fargo and Moorhead and so forth, and Horace and Harwood were all didn't talk to anybody. And that was one of my goals over the last 8 years, to improve that. I think I've improved that. We're on a first name basis with both mayors, all 3 mayors basically, Dilworth included, and so forth. And we all have a competition amongst us. We all want this, we all want that. But one of the points I tried to make over the years was, whatever's good for West Fargo is good for Fargo. Whatever's good for Moorhead is good for Fargo, and vice versa. That's one of the key situations of all of this collaboration, is what is good for the entire region, not just Fargo. Fargo is going to get their piece of the pie no matter what happens. But being concerned about Mapleton, for instance, and their growth, that's good for Mapleton. It's good for the region and so forth. So I just feel that things are, as far as relationships with our communities, are the same way with the state legislature. We have great relationships with the governor and so forth, and he basically told us about our funding process for the diversion early on, and that's the way it turned out. So, thank you.
All right, thank you. So for our final question, typically we pose the same question to both of you, but we did have someone that kind of split their question up, one for each of you. And I think it's appropriate because it addresses, Mr. Walker, the fact that you're currently serving as mayor. So your part of the question is, where do you think you can improve as mayor if given another term?
Well, it's going to be my last term because of term limits. And our two county commissioners, our past commissioners, fully understand what term limits is all about. But basically, I decided to run for a third term for one reason. I didn't want to see what happened in Moorhead happen here in Fargo. And I thought everything was good and so forth, and then Brad decided to challenge me, and that's fine. It's not a big deal. But as far as I'm concerned, this whole thing about process and governance is extremely important. And to focus this on one or two issues do not make any sense as far as I'm concerned. We have a significant workforce that works for you and for our community that is exceptional in the United States. And that's what it's all about. You have to hire good people for good reasons and so forth, and make sure that they are compensated at a level that they are competitive with. So I don't know if that answered your question, but I tried.
All right, thank you. So then, Mr. Rimmer, your part of the question is, how will you be different as mayor from Mr. Wallaker?
Well, I think the collaboration, I'll go back to just some of my original bullet points. I think the collaboration will differentiate us a little bit, whether it's with the legislature. And again, I think I will be more bringing the city to the citizens. And again, albeit we have our offices and our staff here, I think we'll get out to the citizens, much like we're doing our coffees in the morning. At different locations throughout the city. We're getting out to, whether it's nursing homes and senior centers and to businesses, and getting out to them rather than having the citizens have to come to City Hall all the time. We'll take the show on the road, and we'll take it as a team. We'll take it with department heads. We need to do a better job of advertising the things that we do well. And Dennis is correct. We've done a lot over the 8 years, and it's been a good team. I'm just trying to get him to pass the baton a little earlier and to transition the city commission into young people and into new people, into fresh people and fresh ideas. I'll be the first to admit our 5 city commissioners don't have all the answers. We need to get out to the citizenry. The Go 2030 plan was a good example. I wish there would have been better participation. There was good participation with that, but we need better participation, more transparency. We need to get to the citizens. Again, we need to bring our show on the road. We need to collaborate better. We're doing it well, but could we be doing it better? Certainly. A better team at the legislature, a better team with West Fargo and Moorhead, working closely with our school districts and our park districts. All of the above will enhance just the livability of Fargo. Again, as I said earlier, Fargo is thriving. Fargo is an envious community, and we just want to grow that. It's a changing community, and I'm not sure we understand how fast Fargo is changing, and I just want to enhance on that.
All right, thank you. So now we will give each candidate time for closing remarks. You'll have 1 minute, and Mr. Rimmer, we will start with you.
Again, thank you. I appreciate the audience, the TV, the people that have taken time to show up. We've enjoyed talking to the people. I enjoy the campaign. My impetus on running for mayor was to change things up a bit. Change is good. Transition is good. New people are coming and going, and we want to bring a lively, active, energetic role to the city. We want to bring, I'm going to say, a new energy throughout the community as young people, again, are moving into the community. Energized by this million cups of coffee concept, energized by what these new businesses at the tech park are doing, energized by the marathon and what that's done to the community. We want to bring a skating rink downtown Fargo. We want to bring winter activities. We want to bring summer activities. We want to get people outdoors 12 months out of the year. Fargo, again, is in a good role. We're in a growth role. There are communities that aren't in that growth mode, and we want to enhance that. And I, again, would appreciate your support and hope to do that as the next mayor of Fargo.
All right, thank you. Mr. Wallaker.
Well, I'll comment on one thing that hasn't been fully developed here. During the 1930s, we had over 800 days where the Red River quit flowing. Our population at that time was 30,000 people. But today we're at 110,000 plus, and we definitely need an alternative source of water. I have been attending the Lake Agassiz Water Authority committee meetings for several years. And as effective May 1st, I will become a voting member because Mayor Furness is starting to step down. Things are very good in our city today. Our taxes are lower. Our property tax is 30% lower, thanks to the legislature. Our downtown is doing better than it has in 25 years due to the incentives presently being provided. The Renaissance Zone is a success story because of Mayor Furness's vision. I have supported the program for 8 years and will continue to do that. This not only increases the value of our downtown, but helps reduce the mill levy because it reduces taxes. As far as I have worked closely with the street fair for over 20 years. The Shields Marathon, I've been a total part of that as far as starting the races, not running the races. The game day, I can remember the meeting we had with the game day, which was great for our community, absolutely great. But when I came to the Monday morning meeting, when we had all our people together, there was opposition to moving it off the campus. So,
I want rebuttal time if we keep going.
no. Well, I'll quit then. Thank you. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
That's interesting dialogue.
Before everyone leaves, we do want to remind everyone that on Tuesday, April 25th, so this coming Tuesday, we will have another candidates forum in West Fargo, where we will have the West Fargo City Commission and West Fargo School Board candidates, and that will be from 7 to 9 at the West Fargo City Hall. And then next Saturday, May 3rd, we'll have another one, 9 a.m. to noon, where we will have the District 41 House and the Fargo School Board candidates. So thank you everyone that attended, and thank you to the candidates, and thank you to the City of Fargo for allowing us to use this space.